Hello, Pilgrim. Happy Thanksgiving to all our viewers. That was my John Wayne at the first Thanksgiving. You would know that if you are a big Family Guy fan or a big John Wayne fan. But anyways, my name is Tommy Clutie, as you know, and I am your dashing host of UMass Sports Weekly, your number one source for all things UMass sports. Now, we took a week off last week. Like I said, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving break, but we got a big week and a big couple of weeks to go over, so let's jump right in. First, Victoria Svensson is going to come in. The Minutemen took on BYU and Hawaii. How did they fare? Not too well. She's going to break down what went wrong and what the Minutemen can look forward to for next season. After that, old reliable Liam Byrne is going to come in, talk about the men's hockey team who traveled to Belfast, Ireland to compete in the Friendship 4 tournament. They took on UVM and St. Lawrence, Coach Carvel's old team. He'll tell you how that tournament went. After that, Liam Rose is going to come in, and we're going to talk about some women's basketball, a team that is 4-2 on the season and playing surprisingly well. And to finish off the show, Allie Furlow and dual reporter Philip Sanzo are going to come in and talk about the men's basketball team and give an update on some of those injured players. I'm full on Thanksgiving turkey. I don't know about you, but we're going to work that off by talking about some UMass sports. Everybody stay tuned because this is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. So, like I said, I'm here with Victoria Svensson. Victoria, the Minutemen had two games while we were on break. Yeah. They faced two FBS, not juggernauts, but two solid FBS programs in BYU and Hawaii. First game against BYU, I know we talked about it last week. They said they had their work cut out for them, and they did. They didn't do a lot of work because they lost 51-9. Yeah. So, Victoria, they get blown out 51-9 at BYU. What do you think the week of preparation looked like for the Minutemen going into the Hawaii game that took place last Saturday?
Yeah, like you said, brutal loss, long trip home. It was really hard, and it pretty much just showed us the recurring theme this season of the inability to put together 60 minutes of football. I think an important note is that the Minutemen held two different leads during the half, up 6-0 and then up 9-7. But unfortunately, all the second half consisted of was 44 unanswered Cougar points. So heading into the week before they had to go all the way across the country, I think Tom Masella, defensive coordinator, had his work cut out for him once again. The defense gave up 431 yards. They let them run 247 yards and average 5 yards per carry. So overall, I think the bye week was supposed to rest them up, but I think at that point it's too late in the season. Their bodies are hurting, and I mean the offense looked rough too.
Bye week might have even made them rusty.
Yeah.
The whole team kind of got smacked around.
Yeah.
51-9, not looking good on either side. They play a Hawaii team who, as far as I remember from the FBS standings, has struggled a little bit. They're floating around 500 this season, I believe. They come into this game and they end up losing 46-40. Now, better outcome, better than the BYU game, obviously. Now, Victoria, what did we see from this game that led to what could have been a strong finish and eventually didn't?
Yeah, well, I think we saw the defense call it quits for the season. It was pretty much an offensive battle the whole time. Fortunately, the UMass team came up from two double-digit deficits throughout the game, so it looked like a promising comeback, but it's been the story of the season. We can't complete the comeback, which is unfortunate because they were looking to get to that 3-9 where they have been the past couple of years.
The elusive 3-9 mark.
So they hit that 2-10, which is an unfortunate way to end the season, but who knows, maybe it can be that little extra push to come out strong next season and get that first win. But overall, I mean, let's give Andrew Ford some credit. 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, his first game without an interception. So on the bright side, the offense looks strong.
Perhaps Mark Whipple, the quarterback whisperer, is starting to work his magic on Andrew Ford. Now, Victoria, looking forward to next season, obviously recruiting hasn't happened yet. We don't know what new faces we're going to see, what faces are going to emerge in training camp. But what, just from this baseline perspective, what can we expect for next season?
Well, we do have a few key players sticking around. I think Adam Brenneman, tight end, is really important this season specifically. He had 70 receptions for 808 yards and 8 touchdowns and broke a school record. So he had a great season. Then we had running back Marquise Young. He went for 898 rushing yards, 147 receiving, also put together 4 touchdowns. And then Andy Isabella, we hear his name a lot too. Wide receiver, 100 rushing yards this season, 801 receiving, and 7 touchdowns. So, and we can't forget Andrew Ford. He looked promising this season, and I think we will see more of him. And I think as long as he gets rid of these rookie mistakes, he threw 14 interceptions this season, but he also had 26 touchdowns and over 2,000 yards, 2,665.
Yeah, so just to add specifics to that, Andrew Ford threw for 2,665 yards, 26 TDs, and had a 60.8 completion percentage. And that was with missing the first 2 games. So,
yeah. But
now,
the question is, going into recruiting time, that what's the incentive to bring these players to UMass? We're 2-10. So
with
what's
no
the
conference.
Yeah, so how are we going to get these recruits here is what we have to think about this offseason.
I think you're asking the question that UMass fans have been asking for a very long time. Now, one thing I also want to point out, Andrew Ford, more impressive stats. With regards to his completion percentage and yards, he was in the top 40 of all FBS quarterbacks, and his 26 touchdowns thrown was 20th in the FBS. So, like I said before, missing 2 games.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year has a lot better things in store for Mr. Ford and the Minutemen. Another important thing to mention, Adam Brenneman, we're not sure if he's sticking around, could enter the draft. Hopefully he doesn't.
Hopefully he doesn't.
Hopefully. That's what we're hoping. We're going to hope for it. Don't leave.
Please don't.
Thank you very much, Victoria. When we come right back, we're going to talk about the men's hockey team and their trip to Belfast. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. And welcome back into the show. As we talked about, or as I talked about in the intro, earlier last week, the UMass Minutemen hockey team traveled to Belfast, Ireland to partake in the Friendship 4 tournament, a tournament they've been playing in for the past several years. Of the other members there, it was only a 4-team tournament. We have the Minutemen. We had number 19, St. Lawrence, Coach Carvel's old team. Now number 14, University of Vermont, and number 9, Quinnipiac. So, Liam, breakdown of this tournament, you win the first game, you go to the finals. You lose the first game, you go to the consolation game. How did the Minutemen fare in this tournament?
Well, UMass took on fellow Hockey East team, number 14, Vermont. It was a close game throughout the whole thing. The score ended up being 4-2. Obviously, it was a tightly contested game. The Minutemen outshot the Catamounts 35-34, but UVM did have the upper hand on power play goals, Tommy, with 2. UMass scored 2 early goals to come out on top, one from Shane Bear and Griff Jeska. And Ryan Wishow, freshman goaltender, started and he registered 30 saves in this game, Tommy.
Also important note, Minutemen had a 2-goal lead in that game. They also had a 2-goal lead in the St. Lawrence game, which we'll talk about. But they did give up 2 or 3 third-period goals, so definitely a trend to watch. Mm-hmm. But good performance by Wishow otherwise.
Definitely, yeah. And he started both these games.
Yes, which is another promising trend.
Definitely. So we'll move on to St. Lawrence now. St. Lawrence ranked number 19 in the country. Coach Carvel's former team, it was a 2-2 tie ultimately. Once again, another tightly contested game, as we've been mentioning. UMass once again they struck first with Nico Hildenbrand getting the assist from Riley McDougall, and it's Hildenbrand's second goal of the season. And Austin Plevy was able to put in one for UMass in the second minute into the second period. But then St. Lawrence came out and scored 2 in the third. You know, it's kind of been a trend this season for the Minutemen. They're late in games that they just can't do it. You know, they can't really hold off their opponents to scoring goals, which is unfortunate because you need to hold the lead to ultimately win the game.
A few things you can attribute that to. I mean, the announcers, if anybody watched the game, William Lagesson, defenseman for UMass, logged almost. Let's see how many minutes there. He played almost half the game. Sorry, my times are off.
That's all right.
Since I played hockey, times have changed.
Well, I mean, they were in Northern Ireland, so
yeah,
times were off.
Well, William Lagesson played half the game. When you have a defenseman like that out there for the entirety of the game, sometimes they slow down by the end of the third period. Other than that, though, defensive breakdowns and, like you talked about, power plays. Mm-hmm. The Minutemen, I believe, were out power played in both games, so important to notice that. Now, Liam, moving on, we're focusing on the St. Lawrence game. Coach Carvel's old team, he moved over there from last year. If you want to take a look at what Coach Carvel did while at St. Lawrence, in 150 games, he won 72 games, lost 63, 15 ties. You could have also read that and didn't have to listen to me. But more importantly, St. Lawrence was a bit of an unknown, irrelevant team before Coach Carvel was there. So he really brought this team back into relevance. Now, Liam, did Coach Carvel say anything or do anything to show how important this game was and how important it was for him to play his old team?
Yeah, he was pulled aside before the third period going into the game, and by a Belfast reporter, actually, just on the side. And he was quoted saying it's the most emotional consolation game you'll ever see. And granted, I mean, maybe for him personally, on a personal level, I'd say, because he has a really personal connection with the team that he built. And he also was quoted saying there was a lot of emotion out there tonight. And what I saw in the video, he had a little twinkle in his eye, a little tear. I think he still has a connection to that team because he probably still has guys who he recruited on that team, hopefully. And he did a lot with St. Lawrence, but now he's taken a new chapter in his career and headed here in Amherst. But yeah, he definitely recognized the hard work of his team now and his former team in St. Lawrence.
Also important to note, Coach Carvel was the captain of St. Lawrence when he attended school there. So
former player and coach.
His roots are planted very deeply in the St. Lawrence River in that school. Now, Liam, we're going to move on. We're off of the holidays. We're moving on to Christmas, but Thanksgiving is over. Tournament's over. We're going back into Hockey East play.
Yep.
We're taking on Notre Dame. Now, they have the number 3 scorer in the country and Boston Bruins draft pick, Anders Bjork. How do we shut him down, and how do we make sure we can win this game and get back on track in the Hockey East?
Yes, I was going to mention Bjork because, like you said, he's a Bruins prospect. 9 goals, 14 assists, 23 points, leading all of the Notre Dame teams. So Notre Dame's number 12 in the country, as ultimately they're tied for 4th with UNH in the Hockey East, and with an overall record of 7-5-2. 3-2-1 in the Hockey East. And what the Minutemen need to keep doing is like you said earlier today, rely on their defense more because the offense isn't really clicking too much. But with more Hockey East play coming up because we got Notre Dame the weekend series Friday, Saturday here in Amherst, and then we take on Connecticut again. We'll hopefully bounce back with Connecticut, but I feel the Minutemen will play harder than I think they ever will, because they're facing a highly top 20 national team in Notre Dame, and they have a lot of history of Notre Dame. That 5 periods, was it 6 overtimes?
I'm sorry, it was a 6 periods.
6 periods, yeah, 6 periods.
It was 2 full games.
The longest NCAA hockey game in history. So these two teams have something to play off, So
some history to play off.
Yeah, so some other two players to look out for on Notre Dame. Connor Hurley, who is also a Buffalo Sabres prospect. He's the number 16 in the center, 4 goals of the season, 10 assists, 14 points, and their goaltender, very good goaltender Cal Peterson, who is also a Sabres prospect. So ultimately, those two may end up being teammates again someday. You never know.
In the beautiful city of Buffalo.
Oh yeah, gotta love Buffalo. 30 goals, goals against, 331 saves, and a .91 save percentage, which to me is very good. So, but you got to keep our goaltending situation intact, because I think Wishow, from his performance in Northern Ireland this break, definitely earned a spot in goaltender. And Coach Carvel, if you don't pick him as your goaltender, I don't know what else to say.
Important thing to note, Wishow, a freshman. 3 of the 4 goals the Minutemen scored this weekend, also by freshmen. So
yeah.
Let's see if maybe some of the older guys can step up and get this offense reignited. Thanks a lot, Liam.
No problem, Tom.
We come right back. Liam Rose is coming on to talk about the surprisingly solid women's basketball team. Stay tuned. And welcome back into studio. Now, I will apologize in advance. We haven't done a lot of covering of the women's basketball team, so if you want to take a look at this graphic showing how they've been this season, it's been a nice start for Coach Tori Verdi and the rest of the women's basketball team. As you can see, they are now 4-2. They are 3-0 at home, and they've won 3 in a row. It's been tough trying to replace Rashida Timbilla and Sierra Dillard, but as you can see, Haley Lydell and Maggie Mulligan have been doing a pretty solid job. So, see that graphic? Now you take a look, you see Liam Rose. So, Liam, first thing I want to talk to you about, I've said it several times now, we have the Thanksgiving break. What did we miss? Enlighten me.
So after a blowout at the hands of Iowa on the 19th, where the team shot under 20% from the field and only 50% from the line, UMass edged out Montana 59-58, despite only pulling down 8 offensive rebounds in the game and almost giving it up in the fourth quarter, being outscored 17-10. They ended the break on a real positive note with back-to-back 29-point blowouts of Central Connecticut and Merrimack.
Yeah, definitely a good way to start the season for Coach Verdi. Great way to break in his new job. So, Liam, we have this 3-game winning streak. It's something that the women's basketball team hasn't done in the beginning of a season for a while. They did it towards the end of last season, but a lot of emotions running for seniors then. So I want to know, what can you take away? What are some of the key takeaways from this 3-game winning streak?
Well, a couple of important notes. First off, Maggie Mulligan is turning into a superstar. It's been 5 straight double-doubles.
That's why I put her in the graphic.
Double-doubles. She's averaging 16 points, 12 rebounds a game, and this is after not playing much last season. You can tell her confidence has increased. She had 4 of the 8 offensive rebounds against Montana and then added 11 on the defensive board for 15 in that game. So she's been really important for the team. Freshmen Haley Lytle and Ryan Holder have also come up huge. Holder averaging 12 points a game and 5 assists, while Lytle, who holds the Michigan high school record for most points in a game with 38 and most points in a season with 522, now ranks top 3 in the A-10 with 17 points per game. She recently won A-10 Rookie of the Week honors, so you can see the production coming from the freshman.
Picking up right where she left off, recurring theme, freshmen overperforming, or performing very well. Overperforming is kind of condescending. I apologize for that. So Liam, new year, new coach, new team. What has changed in this 365-day calendar year that has made this team into what seems to be a successful team that can go forward and compete in the A-10?
Well, I think the big thing has been Coach Torrey Verdi's confidence in his starters. The past couple games, the starters have been eating up 30-plus minutes just about every game. I know the last couple games, only 2 bench players have seen action, only one of whom played for more than 10 minutes. You can see it really everywhere from the upperclassmen. You have Maggie, and then you have McDermott, who are both juniors and improved substantially from last season, and that only comes with playing time. And then the freshmen who have really exceeded expectations and are making this team competitive. You can really tell that everything's starting to click and they're starting to heat up.
Well, there you have it. Torrey Verdi, like Coach Derek Kellogg and Coach Greg Carvel, letting his freshmen thrive and throwing them into the fire while it's still hot. Thanks a lot, Liam.
Thank you.
When we come right back, we're going to finish off the show talking about the 4-1 men's basketball team. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back in. We have some good news, some breaking news for you regarding the men's basketball team. If you want to bring up this tweet from UMass Athletics, freshman recruit Bryson Gresham, you'll remember he was brought in with Dijon Giroux, has just been ruled eligible to compete for the Minutemen. Sorry about the tongue twister. Ruled eligible. But very important to this team. Minutemen, like I said, 4-1. Bryson Gresham coming back is going to be very important, and I'm going to go first to Allie Furlow. We're going to talk about the games they had this week, and then we're going to talk to Phil about why Bryson Gresham is going to be so important. So, Allie, Minutemen take on Harvard and Holy Cross. Holy Cross, not the best of programs, but Harvard making the NCAA tournament the past several years, becoming the battle of the Bay State, UMass versus Harvard. So how did these 2 games go, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a little bit of recap, last Sunday, UMass played Holy Cross, won 68-60. At the end of the first half of that game, the 2 teams were tied 27 points. For Harvard, this past Saturday, UMass wins 70-66, and at the end of that first half, both teams were tied 32. So what this is telling me, Tommy, is that either UMass is a second half team, or the teams that they've been playing, like Harvard and Holy Cross,
Our first half teams.
are first half teams. Another key takeaway from all the games that they've been playing, Dante Clark is one of the most valuable assets that this team has.
Like a fine wine.
In all 5 games played this season, Dante has been one of the top 3 scorers of each game, and he's averaging 17 points per game, so that's a pretty big deal. 2 other guys worth mentioning, Rashawn Holloway, the center, and Luwan Pipkin, both putting up double-digit points in the games against Harvard and Holy Cross.
So there you see some of the big men stepping up like we always talk about we need them to, and recurring theme, freshmen stepping up. Now, Phil, Allie didn't mention one specific name that we've talked about a lot this year, Dijon Giroux. She also didn't talk about Chris Baldwin. Those 2 guys got injured over Thanksgiving break. Can you give us an update on them and how they're doing?
Yeah, Giroux had a stress fracture in his right foot. He was ruled out prior to the Harvard game. He played Holy Cross. The thing with stress fractures, it's hard to pinpoint when this actually happened. It could have been something that he had that he thought he could play through. It just got to the point where he can't. It's better to sit him now. So Giroux is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks healing that. It's a tough loss for the team because he really was a starting point guard. He's really coming into himself and everything.
But what does it say about the character of this team to play a Harvard team who's made the NCAA
Yeah,
tournament
definitely.
the past
I mean,
several years.
You see the team doesn't have many selfish players on it. They play because they want to win. Even the freshmen, which is really nice to see. In terms of Chris Baldwin, he broke his nose actually against Harvard. He got palmed right in the face. He was out for the rest of the game. Derek Collick said though he's not expected to miss that much time though, if any at all. He'll be wearing a face mask, molded to his face and everything to protect his swollen nose. But aside from that, Chris Baldwin should be playing. However, how much we play, a mask, adjusting to playing with a mask could limit his playing times, restrict how he goes. The addition of Bryson Gresham really helps soften that blow though.
Yeah, so I did a poor job of foreshadowing, a stuttery poor job of foreshadowing, but Bryson Gresham coming back, he was another one of the top 200 recruits, like I said, came in with DeJean Giroux. Besides him, who else needs to step up in the absence of Giroux and Chris Baldwin?
Well, if you look at all the freshmen, majority of them have had bright moments. Luan Pipkins, DeJean Giroux, Chris Baldwin. Now, the next one is Ty Flowers, the power forward, really good shooter. He's had minutes here and there. He's had moments where he's done well, but of his 22 shots, only 17 of them have been 3-pointers from beyond the arc.
Oh.
So his ability to drive to the basket has not really been there, and it's kind of hurt his minutes and everything. So for Ty Flowers, Derek Kellogg is hoping that with the injury to Giroux and with Baldwin a little restricted now with the broken nose, maybe Ty Flowers can be that next freshman that steps up, starts scoring points. I mean, the only way he's going to get more minutes if he starts playing consistently well. So he's going to look to do that. He's been practicing. Quiet kid, but like he said, it's a process. You have to trust the process. He's really the next freshman you have to look at for the Minutemen to improve on.
So, Allie, before we go, we have a game coming up against Wagner. Preview that. What do we need to look forward to, and who's going to go off and help us win this game?
Yeah, absolutely. So tomorrow night, UMass will be taking on Wagner. This team is 2-3 already on the season, has a losing streak of 1 game already. They're normally better on the road. They're 0-2 at home. One thing to highlight is that they lost to UMass Lowell 76-87, and earlier in this season, we defeated UMass Lowell. Another person to look out for is leading scorer senior guard Michael Carey. He averages 13.8 points per game, already has 69 points thus far in the season, but I definitely think that this should be another win to add to the 3-game winning streak that UMass already does have.
All right, well, there you have it. Come out, support the Minutemen. Is that a home game tomorrow or away game? Home game. Come out, support the Minutemen, cheer loud. Maybe you get a free T-shirt. I don't even know what the promotions they do anymore. Unfortunately, though, that's going to do it for us here at UMass Sports Weekly. Thank you, Allie and Phil, for coming on. Thank you to the rest of the analysts and any guests that we could have had but didn't have. As usual, I need you to follow us to get updates on social media. We got a Twitter, we got a Snapchat, we got an Instagram. Liam said Vine shut down, which is devastating to some people. I didn't really mind it. Facebook Live, we're on right now for all you viewers. How's it going? We're going to be right back here next week talking about UMass Sports. Have a great week, UMass. Peace out.